Alright, here we are. We're taking a look here at one of the mods in the workshop. It is by Singe. I'm going to bring up a shot of what we're looking at here. Hold on. So what we're looking at here is Singe's Lord skills. There is a compilation. As you can see, I'm subscribed. This is to provide Singe's skills to everybody in all factions. If you're having difficulty getting the mod to work, there are versions also, as you can see, for individual factions. There's the Empire, Vampire Counts, Ogre Kingdoms. So why am I recommending this as a mod? Because it adds, as it says, skills to your lord. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look through the High Elf lords. So we'll start with Tyrion and we'll just load into a new campaign for each one to take a look at them. Like a lot of mods and like a lot of lords and powers in the game, this can vary quite wildly in how lore friendly they are, how useful they are, and especially how powerful they are. But if you have a favorite lord, you might find that this makes them even more interesting, or you may find that a lord that you had no interest in playing now has some skills that you're willing to go for, because most of these skills are acquirable at really pretty low levels. So if you go into your skill tree, you've got your typical over here on the left, you've got the two bloodlines for Tyrion. So these are personal lines that only that lord will have. And if you scroll all the way to the right, you'll find the powers that have been added here by the Singe mod. So this one here triggers at only rank 4 and is armor and range for your Lothern Seaguard. That's really a pretty impressive mod. Lothern Seaguard is something that nice armored spear wielding ranged unit, so a nice hybrid unit. And getting this range is very nice because one of the deficits for Lothern Seaguard is having less range than traditional archers. Here at rank 6 we've got melee defense and charge bonus for Silver Helms, and then Champions Chosen at 8, White Lions of Grace and Phoenix Guard get buffed. And then down here at level 10, again, you're getting White Lions of Grace and Phoenix Guard. So I wouldn't rank this as a particularly good skill set, because the only one I'm really likely to use is this one. On Legendary, the Silver Helms and the White Lions and the Phoenix Guard aren't particularly powerful units. But if I was playing as Tyrion, I'll pretty much assuredly get that one. So let's go, let's go back to the main menu. And we'll load into a second faction. For those of you who don't want to sit here and wait while the loading is going on, there'll be chapters at the bottom. So let's go take a look at Teclis. So I recently played a Teclis campaign in SFO. It is possible to do well in that campaign. I don't know now that the 5.2 has buffed enemies and someone like Kairos can really spam armies. If it's going to be possible to do, I'll probably just have to try it. But if I remember right, Teclis has some pretty good additions from this mod. I've played with him on the old world map using this mod. So let's go into Teclis and take a look. So here's all his magical skills on his personal line. Here we can see that he adds melee defense, melee attack, and reload time for spearmen and archers. So the meat and potatoes of his army can be buffed there. Normally as Teclis you want a good spearman line because you're going to use Teclis to deal the damage. Here you've got armor piercing damage for Sword Masters of Hoeth, and again that's one of his units. As a Vassurian you got Phoenix unit buffs, and then down here, excuse me, you've got Sword Masters buffed again. So I guess this isn't as good as I remember. This is a really good one. Melee defense, melee attack for spearmen. That's going to be really appreciated since you're going to do that staunch line of spears. But this Sword Masters of Hoeth and Phoenixes, probably not necessarily the unit I'm going to be using when I'm playing as Teclis, unless it's really, really late game. So let's move on to our next one here.
In the name of Magnus,
Let's take a look at Alarielle. So yeah, Alarielle is a hybrid She's usually going to be flying around, but she can go into melee. She's going to buff her handmaiden units. She's going to have those tree spirits. So let's see what we've got for her in this set. Oh, that last little loader. Okay. So we take a peek in her skill tree. So we've got Astarion's Legacy at level 4. So there's a boost to those Forest Spirit units. Her traditional skill set, you really only get bonuses to your tree spirits here and here. And that's in the Blood and Fire bifurcation, which you're not necessarily going to use. If you look down here, okay, there's no tree spirit bonuses in any of these. So the only way to boost them and make them worthwhile in the way that the Wood Elves can do is through these. And hardly anybody is going to use this line when this one is available. So this one will allow you to buff Dryad, Streakin, and Treeman, Physical Resistance, and the Gift of Avalorn, which is, as you can see here, Regeneration. Regeneration makes these guys a fantastic unit. And look, this is only at level 4. So that is when their hit points are less than 50%, but, you know, regeneration. Hail of Thorns, missile reduction for infantry units and ammunition. So that's going to buff all those archers she's going to have. Remember, she's got early access to Sisters. She's got a third one here, the Maiden Guard, Sisters of Avalorn and the Handmaiden of the Everqueen units. Okay, they're going to get buffed. And Guardian for Sisters of Avalorn units. We've got the Pride of Avalorn, which again is Handmaidens and Sisters. And instead of 4 like the other, she's got 5. This one here is going to buff Treemen and the Sisters. So units that she's going to definitely use in large numbers. The Sisters and the Handmaidens are buffed. And then the Tree Spirit units are finally given something good here. Physical Resistance is excellent, and then Regen is very good on top of that. So I would say that that's quite an excellent set of buffs. And again, most of those are going to be available at relatively low levels. So let's take a peek here at Alith Anar. Alith Anar is going to have his own unit buffs. Normally, he's going to have those Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors that he buffs. That he can, he can recruit both. Most other people can only get Shadow Warriors. He gets them in their own building at a lower tier, a building that he starts with. So if he's anything like Alarielle, we're going to expect him to have buffs along those lines for the Shadow Warriors. Okay, here we go. In his skill line, here's his traditional Revenant line. This is all really good stuff. And now we can see here he's got 4 skills. So this one here, Fear for Shadow Warriors and Shadow Walkers. Now Fear causes enemy units reducing leadership when nearby. Now remember, you're not necessarily going to be too close to the enemy because you're going to want to use range, but once they get close by, you're going to do that Fear and a leadership debuff. This one here is going to buff Great Eagles. Not necessarily the most useful, but I believe he does start with one. This one here is going to increase melee defense, reload time, and provide martial mastery for the Shadow Warriors and Shadow Walkers that he uses. And then here, he gets the passive ability Sure and True in 35 meter range, so armor piercing, weapon damage, and reload skill. And then Vengeful Arrows, which is armor piercing and anti-infantry buffs for the Shadow units. And that's all available by rank 10. So here's your 2 main buffs for your Shadow units, which is what you would expect here. Okay. Let's go back out. We've got Imrik and Eltharion to look at.
Sigmar's will. I fight for the
Let's take a look at Imrik first. My favorite is Eltharion. I'm just going to save him to last for that reason. I have not played Imrik in a very long time because I'm not a fan of the situation he finds himself in out there with the Chaos Dwarves. Probably really need to do a revisit of him. He was the first campaign I ever won back on normal difficulty way back in the day. So here's our boy Imrik, and his skills are, he's got a number of them. Okay, so this is where his traditional line ends here, Dragon Pact. So here's Dragon Blades at level 4, weapon strength for all units in his army, and armor piercing, so that's a great offensive buff. It's only 5%, but that means every 20 hits includes an additional hit, additional bit of damage. Okay, so Dragon Princes. The following units receive bonuses. Contempt for the Caledonian units. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't say anything. That's interesting. So maybe that shows up on the unit and we can see. So, on his... She should have that. Oh, she won't because we haven't got it yet. So that's a bit confusing. I don't know what that one does. Where'd it go? Attribute Contempt for Caledonian units. Okay, I don't know what that is. Caledonian Bloodlines here, so speed and charge bonus for Dragon Princes. Here we go. Immune to contact effects and spell resistance for Dragon units. That's not a shocker. And then here, flammable contact effect for dragon units and flaming attacks for dragon units. So the flammable will counter fire resistance. Most late game units have fire resistance. So this will wipe that out. So probably if you're playing role-playing Imrik and you're using dragons and dragon princes, this is going to buff you. Otherwise, this one is probably the base unit that's really going to be good for you. Wish I knew what that contempt did. Okay, so our last one we're going to take a look at is Eltharion, and we would expect him to do sword and shield or spear and shield infantry.
I command him. I am our future.
And maybe some buffs to his Mistwalker style units. He already has the excellent ability for the unending volley, which makes him the master of sieges. Come on, Eltharion, you can load faster than that. Okay, so our last high elf we're going to look at here.
Prince Eltharion.
There we go. Here's his personal line, and this is part of his traditional line. So here we have Ranger Knights, weapon strength, melee attack, melee defense for Rangers. That takes a unit that you might not use very much and puts it into play. Wardens of Torres, so that's going to buff Silverin Guard and make them immune to flanking and psychology. That's fantastic. He's going to buff those to begin with. As you can see, he buffs Spear Infantry, leadership for Spear Infantry, so he's already buffing those Silverin Guard. This one here, Speed and Strider for Infantry. Strider allows you to avoid terrain penalties. And finally, Champions of the East, which is going to give Dazed for Alpha Tamara Faithbearers and Knights of Torgaval, and melee attack and melee defense for Mistwalkers. So he does boost the units he's traditional. I think that he's probably got the best full set that plays into his skills. He's enabling the Rangers, which he does already give a buff to here. He's going to buff those Silverin Guard, which he's already buffing. He's going to improve all infantry speed and mobility. And finally here, he's going to enable Dazed for the top level units and melee attack and melee defense. So hopefully if you're playing High Elves and you'd like a little additional bonus to you guys, you can just add this mod to your game. Thank you very much.